And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, with some beautiful music, Army song behind me. Welcome to Cold War Radio live on our home base, WAAR. We are America, your number one source for streaming political and government talk anywhere. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. Let's call in Radio Norway. Good evening. Come in, please.
Good evening, sir. Radio Norway here. I'm a little stuffy in my nose today because I thought I'd try out the latest fashion here, which is the flu.
Influenza. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. deep down in the bunker in the Smith & Wesson studio, and Norway coming from way up north, 30 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. Please follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio, 2 A's in war. You'll like that page because that's where all the videos are that you'll hear the audio clips on the show. So go there and you can reference the episode number. This is 517 in the comments, in the actual post, so you know which one is which. You can catch the show on Blueberry, Roku, YouTube. Cold War Radio is a proud iHeartRadio program. You can get the Cold War Radio app at your app store for free. Just type in Cold War Radio in either iPhone or Android app store. The email is hutch@steelcityresistance.com. The Cold War Radio patron-provided hotline is 412-567-1460. Let's exercise that tonight. Chat room is up on Spreaker, the best chat room on the web. You can go to steelcityresistance.com if you are not currently listening on Spreaker and get a link right to there. You can also catch the show notes there, the show notes links, because sometimes we get a little bit long-winded and some of the show notes go away, so you can always go read the complete story on the website. You can also become a Cold War Radio patron there in the right-hand margin. If you want to send mail, it's Hutch Bailey Jr., P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15226. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a programming note right at the top of the show. We've virtually made the decision already, but I still want to know how you feel. So far in the poll, you are for it, but we are going to move the whole shooting match, Cold War Radio, Wayne Dupree. We are going to back it up an hour. So Cold War Radio will be heard at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Wayne Dupree will be at 8 p.m. Eastern, so we can wrap it up at 9, so you guys can watch Sean Hannity, and so I can get a little more sleep. Just the reason for it was initially for people when Hannity changed. We have a lot of Sean Hannity fans in the audience. And but then when we started talking about it, it's like, look, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not as strong as Norway. You know what I mean? I get up at 5:30. When I'm done, if I can be done at 9 instead of 10, I'm all for that. So I hope that doesn't hurt anybody. I really do. In the event that it does, and you're a patron and you want to withdraw, I have no problem with that. That's perfectly understandable. Although, you can always get the podcast. But hopefully you'll be able to just move back an hour and it'll be all good. The weekends won't be as late either. Plus it'll give us that opportunity to have maybe an extra third hour on the weekends, but we'll see what happens when we go there. I had two choices. I either quit the Wayne Dupree program or I moved mine back, and I figured, you know what, I got a good audience. I'm gonna stay on the air, and I'm not going to quit the Wayne Dupree show. So there you go, Norway. I hope you will enjoy a little bit of a break.
Yeah, well, it's an hour earlier. I can get to bed, so that's fine with me. And I saw Peaches McPhee in the chat room. She said she had been waiting for an hour because she thought it started today. So
no, we're going to do that next week.
I guess you'll announce it later on.
Yeah, next week I think is what we're going to do. That's the plan concurrently. If I got it right, I'm pretty sure I did. But if you go on the website, there's a poll on the right hand margin of the website, just asking whether you'll continue to listen live, and the yeses are ahead of the no's by double. So hopefully that's the consensus. So there you go. It's over there on the website, steelcityresistance.com. Please let us know how you feel. Now we have to get into this just disaster that occurred in Las Vegas. It's worldwide news. A 64-year-old man, about halfway up the, I forget the name of the hotel now. Anyway, he's in the Las Vegas Strip, and he's 32 floors up, 34 floors up, something like that. Has either some military weapons that he stole or he modified. It's not a very tough modification to the sear pin. Some semi-automatic weapons, turned him into fully automatic. Got some massive magazines. I mean, I don't know. These had to be Norway. They had to either be one of two things, and I'm almost ruling one thing out. They had to be snail drum type magazines for the amount of rounds that were coming out. I mean, it's just amazing the cyclic rate of fire of these weapons. They're saying they were 223, which probably means they were 5.56 millimeter, which is M16, AR-15 caliber, 308, which is 7.62, heavy duty 7.62, M60 machine gun 7.62, not Kalashnikov. So big time damage, horrible situation. I'm going to, if you have any young children or somebody who's sensitive, you might want to peel them away, because it's my duty. I'm going to put the audio. I'm going to put a couple audio clips up. One is of the response, and it's time-lapsed. The Las Vegas response. I'm going to play that first, and then I'm going to play a couple minutes of the raw data, or the raw audio, rather, of this situation. Now, to date, I haven't seen any video that shows the carnage. And there probably is some out there. I haven't seen it. I've seen it where you can see people reacting, but nothing of impact of rounds. You can hear a little bit of the impact of the rounds on this second clip, but let's listen to the Las Vegas police.
169 Sam Easy, we got shots fired at 4:15 a.m. Route 91, sounded like an automatic firearm.
Copy, code red at 169 Sam Easy, have shots.
179 Sam Easy is coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. Halfway up.
Stroll 361 IC. We have multiple 415A breaks. Give me a surge.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the whereabouts.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay. There's many people down. Stage left. Just be advised.
790 arrived. I'm going to form a strike team. Mandalay Bay and the Boulevard. I need 5 officers on me.
Control 020.
020, go ahead.
Sit on the suspect's door. I need everybody in that hallway to be aware of it and get back. We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else.
Copy. All units on the 32nd floor. SWAT has explosive breach. Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back.
Breach. They need the radio. We are clearing this room. We have one suspect.
We need the air clear for Zebra 20. They have one suspect down inside the room. Zebra 20 has one suspect down inside the room.
Okay, so apparently when they got in the room, he had whacked himself. I'm sure that was probably the plan all along. There's I'm not going to speculate a whole lot about why he did it yet. There's several different angles that they're taking. One is he had a lawsuit with the Mandalay Bay that he lost. There's another one where he made several high-caliber bets in the last couple weeks. Then there's another ISIS claimed responsibility for it, and the FBI immediately said that there was absolutely no way that the FBI or that ISIS was involved, yet they can't do that about President Trump with the Russians. But for this guy, they say it immediately.
It's ridiculous, and I saw ISIS's official page declare that he was a convert several months ago, and it's worth looking into. I mean, when ISIS makes a claim like that, they're not often calling out attacks when they in fact haven't had anything to do with it. So I think FBI was really, really quick in dismissing that without having started an investigation in depth.
And if they did find out, they might not even bring it out there. You know, with the FBI, their credibility is so far gone at this point. I think it's a plan. You know, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm not gonna.
And the father of this shooter, he made the FBI's most wanted list back in 1969, I think it was. And he was a really dangerous guy. I mean, psychologically unstable, did a lot of bank robberies. So, in this case, one might say that the apple didn't fall far from the apple tree.
Now, the guy was a successful guy. I mean, he was a multimillionaire, had several homes. I heard his brother interviewed, and his brother said they didn't even know their dad. He was in the jail the whole time. But anyway, we're gonna wait and see. It'll get interesting. I don't think it's going to be some in the chat room just write it off to a crazy guy. I don't think that's going to be the answer. I think there's going to be something. There was a lot of planning that went into this. A lot of trips down to the car too. There was like 10 weapons in there or something, some large number of weapons. But we'll listen here. Let's listen to the tough part. I have to play this because I have to say, other than a battlefield environment, I've never heard anything like this before. Okay, God bless you, people. But anybody, all my military people in the chat room in Norway knows that the sound of those bursts, that first burst was at least 100 rounds, and I know he didn't have any belt-fed. I don't know, but I'm guessing he didn't have any belt-fed weapons in there, so he had to be using a snail drum or some very huge magazine. Anybody that's fired a 30-round magazine, they don't last that long.
No, I mean, I counted loosely the second burst there, and that was at least 50, 60 shots. So I think he would have had to use a belt fed, a drum fed
drum. Yeah.
That's
what I'm thinking too. Maybe even the 2-sided drum, you know. But anyway, we might never find out because they might not want to advertise that they're available. But anyway, OJ's out of prison. Cut a woman's head off and you get out in 9, even though that's not what he was in there for. That's different, though, him being out. I don't know how much interest that has, but I figured I'd throw that out there. Tom Petty, rest in peace, rock and roll star, dead at 66. I'm sure he lived a hard life.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really sad because he made some really great music, and my favorite period of his was when he was in the Traveling Wilburys. They made some great music.
Definitely a star, no question about it. These guys live hard, though. They play hard. Let's put it that way. There's exceptions, but tough life. Great musician. Now I have to turn it down a little bit. Something that always bothers me is when, and I'm just going to be frank here, when you get celebrity white people around celebrity black people, they always have to like bow down and apologize for themselves. It seems like I came across a piece on this because it was about one of the players on my football team, Antonio Brown. He ran a trick play, and for some reason the quarterback didn't acknowledge him or didn't see him or something, and he totally lost his mind. And then you have this guy on, I guess it was ESPN. He's on there. I want you to listen to this guy. It's a white guy, and he's talking to a couple former football players, and it's just sickening. This just annoys me to no end, and you people need to stop doing this. I mean, you really do. Let's see here. I got this backwards, so let's put this right there. Producer, play clip 3, please.
I'm not going to condemn Antonio Brown. I know him. We've had him on the show. I think his heart's in the right place, but it's all about his brand. And this was his special little sort of trick play, his little backdoor pick play, and it worked like a charm.
Yes.
He was gone open. I mean, just like they just blew the coverage completely. And he couldn't understand, how could we work on this all week? And we knew it was going to work. And you don't even look at me? So I get that.
Yes.
But you can't throw, even though the Gatorade, I think it was empty.
Yes.
I don't know how it was empty. But
he's the strongest man in the world if he can pick up a loaded Gatorade keg and flip it with one arm.
Okay, you can't do that. Now I'm going to get to what really I cringed over. And maybe I'm oversensitive here. I need your help, both of you, on this. In this racial time we live in, it was disturbing to me that Todd Haley, his coach, reached out, I don't know if to restrain him or to pat him on the back and say it's okay, but he touched his shoulder. And Antonio wheeled and slapped his hand away. What's going on there? Like, is it out of bounds for a coach, and let alone white coach, black player, to put hand on player on the sidelines?
Don't go there, Skip. No,
I'm just saying, because I'm sensitive to it.
No,
because it's like,
I don't. It's not out of bounds. It's out of bounds for a player to act like that.
He wheeled
with a
and
coach.
slapped.
I'm sensitive to it. What a little girl, man. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Totally just giving up all his manhood, and he's supposed to be a sports announcer. Unbelievable. Find the guy. I mean, you hit the coach. Well, can a white coach put hands on? Unbelievable. Just totally. I just came across that, and I was disgusted, so I brought it to the audience. 412-567-1460 if you'd like to air your thoughts on things that are going on. If not, what we're going to do is we're going to go, since there's nothing else in the news except Las Vegas, you probably have not heard about Catalonia. You probably might not even know what Catalonia is. Catalonia is an autonomous region of Spain in its northeastern area with a border with France. And what they've done is they have had a vote for independence, and the Spanish police, came down on these people hard. They had I'm not exactly sure, maybe Norway knows a little bit better the internal political rules in Spain, but they had, apparently they organized some kind of polling mechanism, and the police came and basically tore some of these people out of the polling places, and the foreign minister said the police violence was not extraordinary. Let's listen to this clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Let's put aside the legality of the vote. Let's put aside the politics just for one moment. I saw today with my own eyes police on your orders, the orders of your government, pulling people physically out of polling stations. One video showed a police officer pulling someone's hair, a woman's hair, as he pulled her out, stamping on voters. Surely this is utterly unacceptable in the 21st century in the European Union, sir.
Well, listen, I'm not sure I have seen the same pictures that you see. You seem to have seen. Our position is that if there has been any violence at all, we have tried it for it to be proportional, and in any case, answering or trying to discharge what the courts asked the police to do, which was to prevent this illegal referendum from taking place.
Now, not to be lost, the fact that they're holding this interview in English. This is Sky News, though, but there's 7 million people in this region, Norway. I mean, this is the region that contains Barcelona.
Yeah, it's exactly. Barcelona is the capital of. This is an autonomous community, so they have their own parliament, a sort of a president or such in this region. So they have a lot of autonomy already. But when it comes to the question of becoming completely independent of Spain, there is a lot of resistance actually against this. But you can absolutely understand that the Spanish, that Spain as a whole, don't want to lose this region because it's the biggest industrial region in Spain. So it's important for the Spanish economy as well.
It also has the Pyrenees Mountains and numerous, a lot of its west and southwestern or southeastern coast or southeastern area is all coastline, beautiful coastline, and resorts and everything like that. Like you said, industrial. But I wonder what the other thing is. They have their own language.
Oh yeah. They speak Catalan. As the main foreign language there, in addition to Spanish, of course. So it's like a small country in itself, you might say, and they have their own culture, their own language, their own customs. So they're distinct from large parts of the rest of Spain.
And you have to look at some of the ramifications of this Islamic wave of migrants, of invaders. A lot of these countries are saying, we're going to buck up, and we're not going to. I'm not saying that that's what this is about, but I'm saying this is not going to be the last. You've got 95% of these people voted for autonomy, complete autonomy.
Absolutely. I think that is a very valid point that. The Islamic question is important to them because you've seen a great influx of Islam in the latter years in Spain. And I mean, if you go back to the Spanish Portuguese peninsula was invaded in 711 by the Moors, which came from North Africa. They knocked their way out of Arabia through North Africa and into the peninsula and took Spain and Portugal and Catalonia was invaded in 718, and they became a buffer zone between the free parts of France and the occupied parts of Spain, and it lasted until 1492. The year Columbus sailed from the free Spain and to Central America. So they were occupied for a really long time, and being in this war zone between Christianity in the north and Islam in the south has had a great impact on the Spanish culture as a whole, but definitely also on Catalonia.
And you look at if you look at the geographical situation, Spain is actually, especially southern Spain, is the closest in proximity to these Muslim hordes. I mean, they're right across the street from Morocco by the Strait of Gibraltar, and Algeria and Tunisia aren't that far either. I mean, it's the easiest place to go is Spain. So obviously the hundreds of years of history there, like you said, with the Moors, and they've had problems with Algeria for years. But anyway, we're going to watch that to see how that happens. I wonder if that's not a potential civil war, and maybe the spark that lights this EU up. I don't think this EU is going to last, Norway.
No, that is the other facet of this. I think on one hand they have this more Islamic conquest fresh in mind, but also this is also a rebellion against the European Union, because the European Union drives all these regions like slave states. I mean, it's horrible. All the laws that are passed by the EU, that you don't have any impact on these laws. They're just suddenly there, and you have to march in to the tune of the European Union.
Send your money to Brussels.
Come again?
Send your money to Brussels.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even Norway, we're not a member of the European Union, but we have to pay heavy dues in order to be able to export to the EU. So, I hope that the European Union will go under. The sooner the better. I mean, we need to get back to the nation states, to strong, independent nation states that can negotiate their own trade deals and be open to trade, but not be open to this horrible globalism that is suppressing our every aspect of life.
Absolutely. And stop apologizing for your own ethnicity.
Absolutely.
Now, a real downer, and this is something that everybody doesn't see eye to eye with me on, but that's all right. I've been nervous myself about Rex Tillerson. Sometimes I think he's doing a wonderful job, and then sometimes things happen that makes me wonder. The State Department, the United States State Department, is the most corrupt agency. If you talk about deep staters and leftists, I think in the federal government. And recently we had Hadi Ellis on the show, and we talked about the referendum in northern Iraq with the Kurds voting their own independence. And then it comes out very under the radar. I had to search for it. But the State Department will not recognize Kurdish independence. And I'm thinking, here we go. We're screwing them again. We're doing it all over again. We have an ally that, by God, we could use in the region. We got troops in Erbil, and the State Department won't recognize Kurdish independence. This is from Christian Ruzel. Where's she from? I don't know. State Department will not recognize Kurdish independence. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said on Friday that the United States will not recognize Kurdistan's independence. On Monday, Kurdistan's regional government held a referendum and voted overwhelmingly for their independence, with 92% of the people in favor. From their official Twitter account, Secretary Tillerson, the U.S. does not recognize the Kurdistan regional government's unilateral referendum held on Monday. Wow. I mean, that's just something that the AFP news agency says, breaking U.S. does not recognize Kurdistan independence referendum, says Tillerson. This is a horrible development, in my opinion, and it does not help to make America great again.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, what I noticed in this was actually the last sentence. The United States asks all parties, including Iraq's neighbors, to reject unilateral actions and the use of force, which means that if the Kurds, if the Kurdish people are unhappy about this decision not to support free Kurdistan, and wants to push back in any way or form, Rex Tillerson and the U.S. gives Turkey carte blanche.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, and that's the part. That's why I didn't like Flynn. That's why I'm nervous now about this. This is old school. You got to remember where Tillerson came from. Who recommended Tillerson to the president? It was Condoleezza Rice. Now, this has been, and she's a Bushy, and the Bushies have been screwing the Kurds since they got on the site.
Absolutely, and I mean it's a slap in the face for the Kurds. I mean, if it wasn't for the Kurdish resistance, I mean, they have been fighting with sticks and stones when they didn't have weapons. They have absolutely ground ISIS down. They've been a formidable force, and the reason why ISIS has been pushed back this far has been, to a large degree, the Kurdish resistance, because they know the region, they know the terrain, they know how to fight there, and it couldn't have been done without these boots on the ground. And I think it's horrible that Rex Tillerson and the U.S. They're not even open to negotiations. They just say, well, Turkey, you can just deal with the Kurdish people as you please.
And it's a wonder that they even trust us at all, the way we treated them. I mean, I wish I had my material about, and there's a word for it, I don't know it, but back in the George H.W. Bush administration, after Iraq, after Desert Storm, was it after Desert Storm or before Desert Storm? I think it was after. But there was an uprising in the north, and he supported them and said, go, you guys go. And then Iraq gassed them. I mean, gassed them hard to the point where a whole lot of them fled the country and have taken up residence in San Diego. And I interviewed the president of the Kurdish Iraqi, I forget the name of the organization. I wasn't even going to talk about this. But they still love us, but they just want us to help them out. And I can't understand, short of back in before we discovered we had so much easily accessible oil, it was probably for the oil. But that's not an issue now, unless you look at Tillerson's background, and I'm not doing that, but I'm just saying, he did come from Exxon, which Exxon is one of the largest. Not every American oil company imports oil from Saudi Arabia. Exxon does, from the Middle East.
And that is significant. That is absolutely significant. And I don't know how far we can pull these lines, but Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia is 100% Sunni, and Iraq is I think 90% Sunni, and both have big interests in oil and in the oil war against Iran. So they don't want a Kurdistan with substantial oil and gas reserves. They don't want an independent player here that might end up backing the wrong guy. So And I think it's a shame that Rex Tillerson has been let loose in this fashion. I fail to see the Trump policy in this, to be honest.
And I feel the same way. And I'm not saying that he's doing it because of the oil angle. It's just you can't ignore it.
You can't ignore it, exactly.
You know, it's right there, and you cannot ignore it. 412-567-1460. I think my phone's broke, man. Nobody calls anymore. Or they'll call it. They're calling when there's 5 minutes left.
Yeah, guys, call us. I mean, it's a hoot when we get feedback, questions, different angles on what we're talking about. So give us a call. We love it. The number is 412-567-1460.
Now, Hillary Clinton gets away with everything, but all of her minions don't. From the Daily Caller, a federal contractor has been fined for donating to a pro-Clinton PAC. But it has to get reported from the Ottawa bureau chief. The Federal Election Commission has imposed a fine on a federal contractor for donating money to a political group. They announced Thursday that it's fining Suffolk Construction for $34,000 after the Massachusetts firm made two $100,000 donations to a pro-Hillary Clinton super PAC. Now, if they make a $200,000 in donations, why do they only get fined $34,000? She gets to keep that money, or what?
This is really saying, well, you can break the law, and we'll fine you 1/6 of what you donated. So I mean, I fail to see how this is going to prevent such dealings in the future.
It's true. I mean, and it's at least it's somebody on the Clinton side getting nailed for something. I mean, that's all it is. I think it's just one of those where you lay somebody on the altar and sacrifice them for $34,000. But anyway, it caught my eye. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. I'm a little ambivalent when it comes to these kinds of regulations, because I find that if a private person wants to back a candidate, it shouldn't be illegal the way it is today. But when you're playing on the federal field like this Suffolk construction firm was, you absolutely need to make sure that they're not buying services, and they had been buying services. I mean,
they continue to.
They received more than 168 million in contracts since 2008. So, I mean that is some investment. You pay a few $100,000 and you get contracts for 168 million.
Now, switching up a little bit, when you see a tragedy like happened in Las Vegas, my first instinct is, my God, I'm glad Hillary Clinton's not the president. Because they probably would have created something before this. But I get really nervous, and my first thoughts, other than the tragedy of it all, is how long is it going to take for these guys to come out and start their gun control communist talk?
Exactly.
And it doesn't take long. I mean, it was actually an hour or two. It wasn't very long. And then you wonder, what's Trump going to do? Is he really the stalwart Second Amendment guy that he says he is? And you hope so. You do. But I'll tell you, the press secretary, Sarah Sanders, came out today, and the leeches in the media went right there. Let's listen to her response.
I do want to ask, because before last night's massacre, a bill was advancing through the House. Republicans cleared it through the House Committee on Natural Resources that would, among other things, make it easier for people to buy silencers. Hillary Clinton tweeted about it this morning. She said that imagine the deaths in Las Vegas if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. Does the White House have a position on this particular piece of legislation?
Again, I haven't spoken with the president about that specific issue, but I don't think that is something that would have changed. Again, I think before we start trying to talk about the preventions of what took place last night, we need to know more facts. And right now, we're simply not at that point. It's very easy for Mrs. Clinton to criticize and to come out, but I think we need to remember the only person with blood on their hands is that of the shooter, and this isn't a time for us to go after individuals or organizations. I think that we can have those policy conversations, but today is not that day. Louise?
Sarah, are there any policy prescriptions that the President considers to be out of bounds on the policy debate that will happen in the next few weeks? Could you articulate a little bit what his position on gun control is?
The President's been clear that he's a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and I don't have anything further at this point.
So there she goes. She stood tall, and she handled the question. I got a question in the chat room, Norway. Let me scroll back. Roy asks, full auto plus silencer, Hutch, could you tell us what would happen? And I got to tell you, Roy, that when I was listening to the clip, having fired many rounds from machine guns, I kept thinking, damn, that barrel got to be hot. You know, as a matter of fact, it was so bad that it set the smoke alarm off in the hotel room, from what I understand. And all I could say is I don't have a lot of experience with silencers. I know a little bit how they work, and I would imagine if it was made out of really strong material, really strong hardened steel, it might survive, but I just can't imagine how hot it would get.
It would get incredibly hot, even though there's no friction between the bullet and the silencer itself. It would get smoking hot because you have all these gases coming out there, and I'm no expert on silencers myself, but as far as I understand, they're primarily made for short bursts, not for 50, 100 rounds at a time. So I don't know how that would work, but it would take some really, really tough materials to make an effective silencer that could hold its own on.
Roy must have been testing us, because he throws a wink out there and says the silencer would fail long before the second burst. So I guess we get an A.
Yeah, well, I suppose special forces, SEAL teams, Rangers, they use silencers on some operations, and you can make silencers to take short bursts, but I don't think a silencer would hold up very well on. No,
I don't think so either.
Bursts like this,
and not to mention the back pressure and everything else. But special forces don't use those long bursts like that. They're trying.
No, I definitely don't.
Trying to keep in the background.
Target. You know, they usually have a few targets. So
that's right. So exactly. You hear some funny things. I heard a report on a reporter from MSNBC that was saying that the hunters want the silencers so the deer don't hear them. I don't know, maybe so. I never really had any desire to have a silencer myself. If necessary, we'll just put a potato on the end of the barrel or something like that.
I think people ask that live from the land. They're actually dependent on getting their meat and getting enough meat during the winter. They hunt caribou. It could perhaps be a plus for them to use silencers because they need sometimes to take out more caribou from a herd than just a single one. But practically, I don't think silencers have very much practical use.
They just want to win one from the NRA. Let's welcome Jim from Colorado. What's on your mind, sir?
Hi, yeah. I just had a quick comment about the silencers or suppressors. So I'm no engineer, but from what I understand about firearms is there's two sources of sound. There's the powder charge going off inside the cartridge, but there's also the sonic boom that you get from pretty much any ammo. Most ammo is supersonic. So the statement that you wouldn't have heard those guns if they had silencers is completely incorrect.
Okay.
They're not really a silencer. Isn't really silencing. It's like Jim says. It is a suppressor. It dampens the sound, muffles it, but it's still audible from quite a distance. So
very
absolutely.
much so. Now, if you have subsonic ammo, which goes slower than the speed of sound, arguably that might be quiet, but that's not what an assassin or someone's going to use, because those are actually very poor killers.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the call, Jim.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Great call. Thanks.
All right, so we're not 0 for nothing. We got one in there, Norway. So there you go. Let's ease on over to CBS. Something that happened here was, man, it's really disturbing. Some of these people that live amongst us. There was a legal executive at CBS who immediately after this happened said that she has no sympathy for the victims in the Las Vegas shooting because country music fans are often gun-toting Republicans. I mean, can you imagine your warped mind that you just automatically hate half the country, and for what? The Hollywood Reporter says the CBS executive has been fired. So CBS actually stood up for the country, probably because they had to. But they have parted ways with a legal executive that drew the ire of conservative media channels for commenting on Facebook that following the mass shooting at a country music concert in Las Vegas, she's not sympathetic because of what I said. The executive, Haley Geftman Gold, wrote the comment in a discussion thread that was later deleted. CBS, following outrage about her comments, released the following statement. This individual, who was with us for approximately 1 year, violated the standards of our company and is no longer an employee of CBS. Her views, as expressed on social media, are deeply unacceptable to all of us at CBS. Our hearts go out to the victims in Las Vegas and their families. She wrote in her Facebook post, if they wouldn't do anything when children were murdered, I have no hope that repugs will ever do the right thing. I'm actually not even sympathetic because country music fans often are Republican gun-toters. So CBS has an executive that does not even understand her own constitution. That's sad.
It's absolutely mind-numbing. And there are many of these people in the mainstream media, and it's I mean, if this hadn't caused such an outcry, CBS wouldn't have done anything about it, even if they knew about this comment. I'm absolutely certain of that.
And if you look at you just look at their whole storyline. What are they doing right now? They're hating cops, right? They're hating cops left and right. They're taking a knee.
And hating white people, hating your nation, hating country music lovers. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's a disease.
But let's start at just the cops. They hate the cops and they hate the military. So they want to take the citizens' guns away. So only the cops and the military will have guns. And there will be no recourse for anybody else if the cops and the military truly get out of hand. It's unbelievable how stupid they are.
Yeah, and I think that the First and the Second Amendments in the U.S. constitutions, they are absolutely brilliant in the way they protect each other. Free speech, guns. Guns, free speech. They protect each other.
But if you have generations of people that don't even know the Constitution, that's the part that scares me.
Yeah, it's scary. You're absolutely right, Hutch. It's dead scary. And I mean, if you look at history, what has been going on in history? 1911, Turkey established gun control, and you ended up with 1.5 to 2 million Armenians unable to defend themselves, and they were rounded up and exterminated. China, 1935, ended up with 20 million political dissidents unable to defend themselves. They were rounded up and exterminated. You can go back to, let's say 1938. Germany established gun control, and they exterminated 13 million Jews and others. And the list goes on. All these dictatorships, they started with banning the guns.
But you look at what happened. You look at what happened.
Taking away people's possibility to defend themselves, and then they start exterminating.
You look at what happened in the 1700s in the colonies. The British decided to confiscate the colonists' weapons, and they rose up in revolution, and now we have the United States of America, and that's the reason the Second Amendment's number 2.
Exactly. And I mean, it was absolutely necessary to have guns to make that change in society. And the way the British treated the colonies at that point in history was absolutely horrendous. And without the guns, the Revolutionary War wouldn't have been possible. So, and you're absolutely right. It's disgusting, and it's actually scary that this Haley Geftman Gold, the former executive of CBS here,
future executive at MSNBC, probably.
Yeah, probably. She's totally oblivious of the U.S. Constitution, and these are the guys that are indoctrinating people and what people are supposed to feel and think through the media.
Cambodia, Jack. Cambodia. Just answering a chat room question there, but that was one of the worst genocides in history, by the way. In Cambodia, 1 million people killed out of 6 million total, so something like that. A huge amount of their population.
Pol Pot was a monster, and I mean, monsters, they don't like ordinary people to have guns to defend themselves. Bear that in mind, folks. The minute you give up your gun right, the minute you give up your Second Amendment, America is dead.
That's true. It's not going to be the America you know. And I just cringe. Just think, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, make sure that you teach everybody in your family about the Constitution and the Revolutionary War. It's not being taught in schools, in public schools anyway, and some private schools. I found out that 9/11 wasn't taught in the Pittsburgh public schools until 10 years after it happened. You know,
it's an outrage.
It is. But you cannot rely on schools to teach your children to be Americans and what it means to be an American and what rules we have and traditions. They're trying to stomp them out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, 10 million people don't vote for Bernie Sanders in an educated country. They just don't do it. It's not possible.
I mean, it's apparent that at least the public schools, they've failed completely in civics, and that is one of the best things you can give your children and grandchildren, is teaching them the history behind America, the history behind the U.S. Constitution, and all the things that led to the greatest nation on earth, the defender of freedom, which America is, and which frankly is why I am doing this show, because America is so important to the rest of the world. We cannot do without America, but you need to start to defend it.
Thank you for that, Norway. That's why we have you on here. But it's absolutely right. It's something that we have to start stepping up ourselves. We've gotten a little bit lazy, and we've got kids that we don't even know what they know or don't know. In a lot of cases, I'm not saying that about everybody. And I'm not saying it as a put down either. I'm saying it as we got to get this back, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
We can't have 10 million people voting for a communist. That shows stupidity among our youth.
Stupidity. And I'm with you, Hutch. This is not a put down. This is an inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joy to teach young people civics, to teach young people about the U.S. Constitution. I mean, and sit down with them, talk with them, listen to what they are learning, and if they don't learn these things in school, you need to start teaching them.
That's absolutely right. Norway, we're out of time. How can people get in touch with you?
I am at Norway for Trump on Twitter and Gavin. That's Norway 4 with the number 4.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, vote in the poll. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook, Berg's Eye View on Twitter. Thanks, everyone, for listening live. Wayne Dupree Show coming up next. Thanks for letting us into your life for 1 hour. Ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow, God bless.
God bless.